Today, I'd like to talk about moving on to intermediate level and the things people start to learn. In the old days, so my second year after Mr. Moy started teaching me privately, he taught me to do rolls on concrete, back bends down to the floor, snakes that you go right down to the floor, knees touch the floor, and one-legged non-use, as well as taking punches, having people bounce on my stomach in demonstrations, and lots of intense stuff which I'm quite sure isn't taught anymore, and definitely not things you would teach a class where a lot of the people are over 50. But, so, for a normal class, I'd like to talk about weight exchange. So, when you're doing a toyu, you do the sideways. The weight is coming from about maybe 80-20 to the opposite, probably 80-20, somewhere in that range. And so your weight is traveling from the back foot up through the arms and out. So it's hard to get people to understand how much force can be generated through that movement. So what I would do was I'd have them do like a wave. So they'd feel their weight come up as a wave. First of all, we just pay attention to the general weight exchange. And then we would do it was almost like diving. So we'd exaggerate the movement until they could feel that wave, and then they could generate the same feeling with keeping that wave, but doing the toyu in a normal manner. So it started to give them an understanding of connection of the force that's generated. Now, if I was wanting to get them to really push, I figured out it's like you're going to be doing a fudging or a half-step push. If you hold the wrist like this, but instead of punching and doing a half-step, sort of this, I would have them do this. From the back of the spine, I would hold the wrist like this, and then I just have them fall forward. Ugh. Ugh. So what this did was stop them from allowing that flow to make it natural. And so if you do that, and then you have someone on the other side who's doing this, and or like this, and they push into it, it gives them an idea how much force they can generate. And they generally can throw the person across, 5, 6 feet, 10 feet, whatever, if they're really good at it. Anyways, these help bring in that understanding. And with that understanding, things start to change. So if you're practicing at this level, you also will start, if you're sensitive and understand, you pay attention, you'll understand, you can feel the internal organs moving in a toyu. So what I would find is the whole, in that wave, the whole bag of the internals would lift and add power to the hit. No, not all students were interested, not all students wanted it, but the ones who did enjoyed it. So the other thing I would start with people at this point, we would be doing some push hands. So they get a sense, if someone's pushing on you and they have developed that kind of force, you find your weak spots really quickly. So when someone's pushing on you and your hip's a little tight, well, it's a place you get caught up if there's force coming at you, or if your shoulders are tight, or you have a bad wrist, or you just, whatever it is makes itself quite evident, so you can figure it out fairly quickly and work through it. Now, there's all different levels. Some people are interested, some are really interested. I quite liked pushed hands, and I found it very useful for understanding force. And as you begin to sense chi in your opponent, you feel those blocks. We called it listening. Like you could, they make contact, you could feel where their weak spots were. And so at that point, you push through the weak spot if you want to win at push hands.